We don't have textbooks, right? We don't have till IB, till grade 10th, we don't have textbooks. So parents are very uncomfortable. Don't kill the childhood. Don't kill the childhood with marks and grades. The competition which they say, my child in a skating competition, the child is some 3 years or 4 years, didn't get the first prize. I mean, really, the way IB or Cambridge curriculums have come up, I think they do have a lot of insights into what learning should look like, and which in many ways I could see alignment with the Finnish or the Swedish models. With these universities opening up and also opening up opportunities for these children, that after having done this, I can study few semesters here, few semesters in Cambridge, and few semesters in Harvard or Stanford. I think this is what NEP has done, and I'm super, super excited about the golden age of education in India is what I would say now.
Hello everyone. Thank you for watching Expressions. I'm Neha and this week we're delighted to have Geeta Jayanth, the head of Chaman Bhartiya School in Bangalore. With a diverse background shaped by her army upbringing and extensive experience in education, Geeta has held leadership roles at prestigious institutions and is an advocate for STEAM education. A passionate mentor, she draws from her experiences in Sweden, Spain, Scotland, and Finland to inspire the next generation of students. She was even invited by the Cambridge University to be a part of the team that formulated the pedagogy for global perspective. She has served on the Global Advisory Board of IE Business School in Spain and the University of St Andrews in Scotland. Her passion for education and children is evident in her belief that is to teach is to touch lives. Join us as we explore her insights on education today. Hi Geeta, thank you for joining us today. I'm really happy to have you here.
Hi, Neha. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be part of the Expressions podcast.
How did your upbringing in a military family shape your values in education and leadership?
So, while my dad was in the armed forces, and my childhood definitely was a lot of a very nomadic life. We kept traveling. I think I've changed about 8 schools throughout my schooling journey, and traveled the length and breadth and the east and the west of the country, from Secunderabad to Jammu Kashmir, Udhampur, then lived in Rajasthan, lived in Bihar. So lots of schools. And I think only thing which probably as army kids, which I'm sure most army kids would agree with, I think we just become so much more adaptable. We become so much more, understanding of different cultural perspectives, values people have, and I think we are so much more non-judgmental. I think that's what army brings in, and it also brings in a lot of discipline. And growing up, my dad was a disciplinarian. No Fauji. He used to wake us up at 4 a.m. in the morning, and I think that habit and punctuality, right? They were just so ingrained into us that we grew up. I remember getting up at 4 o'clock, going for a jog with him, coming back, doing yoga, then going to play squash. So these were all part of the way we grew up. And in many, many ways, I think that has shaped who I am today. And those experiences have brought in a lot of richness in how I see things, how I adapt to things, and how I look at people's perspective. Like how IB today says, others with their differences can also be right. And going back, I think my childhood only taught me that.
Excellent. So you did your MBA in Finland.
Yes, yes.
How did that happen? Can you just share some experience?
Oh, yeah. So, my husband, he works for an multinational company, and he was deputed to Sweden. And while he was deputed, and that's very recently, just about 4 or 5 years ago. And I took that opportunity. I was working, I was heading another international school, and I joined him. And this school did not want to let me go. And they said, you can continue to work online, but we want you to be there. But I joined there. But, just going to these Scandinavian countries and not capitalizing on learning the education model, because they were always very well known for their PISA tests, because they always rated high, themselves very, very high. And that used to intrigue me many times to say, what is it they do special? And I think that's something which many educators have always been intrigued about. And to be in a Scandinavian country and not to, just embrace what they do. So I applied for a couple of schools, the universities there, some in Sweden, some in Finland. But I got accepted into a university in Finland, which was MBA in education leadership. And just being in the role, what I was anyway, leading a school, to understand pedagogy, understand education, education theories, and then understand what leadership looked like, what does change management look like, what organization culture look like, what is culture, how does culture play a big role, and to be learning with a cohort from different countries. I had my cohorts, we were about 25 of us, and from about many countries, like Europe had a dominant student population. Then I had colleagues from US, Canada, another girl from China, and just to have those rich conversations, and learn how education theories are formulated in their countries, and how education theories in our country is. Like for us, it was, otherwise I probably would have not gone deeper into what NEP came into, or education policy, why it came after 34 years, and why in these Scandinavian countries the education policies are revised every 2 years. And I understand India has its own challenges, but that also made me aware, that we have a long way to go. But we have our own challenges, but how beautifully we still navigate that path. I think that big picture view, which I otherwise wouldn't have got, I think that degree definitely got me to understand education at a more macro level, understand from a forest level and at a tree level, right? So that's the analogy I think I can give you. Yeah, but what was the difference in the Indian way and Scandinavian way, and how have you brought about your learning to use in
Right.
in the schools? Right. In school. So when I was learning as a student, right, the way the assessments are done, I think there's a lot of student agency. I can choose how, there's an assignment given. The choice is mine. I want to write it as a piece of essay, or I want to create a podcast, or I can create a video or a movie, or I can do it as a collaborative exercise, any of this. So that agency given to children, and to see how you're making real life connections and connections to my past experiences. I think these are not part of our regular mundane way what we teach in India. But now that again, that's the reality of the majority of the curriculum or the education models in India. But the way IB or Cambridge curriculums have come up, I think they do have a lot of insights into what learning should look like, and which in many ways I could see alignment with the Finnish or the Swedish models.
So, Geeta, you mentioned something about PISA test just now. Can you elaborate a little? What is it exactly?
So it is one of the international assessments generally for 15-year-old children, which is called Program for International Student Assessment. Something it is named that, and that assesses children in mathematics, reading, and I think critical thinking. And based on that, there is a worldwide score every country gets, and in the scoring consecutively for many years, the Scandinavian countries, especially Finland, has been ranking the highest, and mostly the Scandinavian countries, including Singapore. So that's where this test. So many people started studying why and how these kids are doing so well when there are no assessments done for children till they are 18, right? And they just have an assessment only at a college entry level. So if that is the say, what is that the schools are doing? What is the model they're adopting that children can still do without being tested or being test heavy for that matter? So that's when the model of education of Finland became very popular, and that has intrigued many educators across to say we want to go back and study. So there are so many trips educational trips. Many companies have started making that as a business model, to go and spend few days in Finland to study the how teaching and learning is happening in schools like that. So for me to just be present there and not to study in depth into that model, I think that would have just been such a wasted opportunity. And that's what I said, no, I just need to go in there. And I spent generally, again, I think people take about 1.5, minimum 2 years to finish that MBA program. But I just had paucity of time, and I was also get back to work. So I had to expedite everything. I parallelly while I was studying, I was also doing, because one of the integral part of the models of Finnish education is to do a research paper. And I had to write a research paper, which many times it takes 6 months, but I just embedded that along with my last 6 months of study so that I could finish both. So in a year and a half, I was the second uh, earliest person to have finished that MBA
Wow.
among a cohort of 24 people. Of course, 3 4 people dropped out because it's a
Okay.
very rigorous program.
Okay. So I'm curious, why is in Finland or Scandinavian countries or Singapore, what is so different about the education that is not incorporated in India?
So again, I think the model, there's a lot of playtime, free time, child self discovery, a lot of time, and which is given for kids to explore themselves, give creative aspects where a kid has agency to choose, pick, have a voice and choice, which I think in our country we have very little. We don't trust our kids. If you give children, I think all kids are scientists. Gian Piaget, he talks about all kids are scientists. You just need to give them the space, and they will create those sparks of, miracles which can come out. And we are just missing out on those opportunities here in India.
So you've been the principal of Bangalore International School, Legacy School, and now Chaman Bharti. So how did you grow and change these schools? What were your contributions?
Right. I think leadership. I've evolved as a leader, right? I started my journey in presidency school. I think that was the first time, what teaching and learning looked like. And this was, I was teaching the millennials, the late 90s. And this was when the Y2K bug was such a big thing. And I was also a computer, person,
Graduate.
so graduate. And then I started teaching computer science. And while teaching, I think that generation, because everybody was talking about computer science, and I was like a sage on the stage, and I thought I knew it all. I was teaching children, and kids were performing really well according to Indian benchmark and metric. My class average would be some 94, 95% in ICSE, and my kids would get hundreds. So I always used to get, we used to have this felicitation where I used to get the best teacher award, or the, awards like this. It was, I mean, you just feel good. And I thought, I'm the best teacher. And then when you moved on, and then, after a couple of years, I moved to Bangalore International School, got exposed to what IB looked like or Cambridge program looked like. That's when, humility hits you. You just start saying, because the first time when I went in for my demo class, that was way back in September 2006, the children there, they only asked me questions, right? So many questions. I knew my concepts well, but why? Everything was a why. And that got me thinking, my God, I really don't know much, because to answer, respond to a kid in their language, which they understands, it requires a lot more deeper engagement with
Yeah.
your content or with your knowledge. And I think that was my first reality check to what learning should actually be. And then went on, and of course, I think I didn't give up and continued to learn. And afterwards, I think many of my leaders recognized
Leadership
the leadership
quality.
quality in me. So I went on. I think when I joined in as the head of the computer science department. Even in the previous school, I was the head of the computer science department, the chairman of the presidency group. I mean, I work so closely with him, and I respect that man even now immensely. I mean, he's built an empire today, but that person, I think he was my first mentor. And from then, I moved on to Bangalore International School. The head of school definitely again recognized a lot. She always put me, and she knew that I would take up the charge. So, I started off as a Cambridge coordinator, and because it was never that I chose to become, I was put into an issue, and I said, okay,
Yeah.
I will take it up. And again, because those days, it was again in 2007 8, where computers were still new. Not many people knew how to use a computer or navigate the software tools or the hardware tools.
Yeah.
So just because I probably had a little bit edge, so that got me to take on the Cambridge this one, because there were already softwares we had to install, and help students to apply for these courses. So anyway, after having taken that on, and I was someone who always went on to do. So Cambridge has sent out a survey for people that we want to introduce a new program. Can you answer a few questions? And I was someone who took my job very seriously. I loved what I did. So I responded back, and this was in 2009, yeah, 2008, 9. And applied. I just sent out this questionnaire, not knowing why. And then those days we didn't even have mobile phones, so and then I got a call from my office that there's a call for you from Cambridge University. And I said, what? And I came down, and they just said that we've received your responses, and we would like you to come over to Cambridge. And we want to, they flew me down, and they were creating a new curriculum. And that was called Cambridge. It was called Global Perspective. It's one of the most popular courses today, even today. And today, to look back, more than now 1.5 decade, right? Yeah, more than that, to see that that course is now spread worldwide. And I was one of the very few across the world. From India, I was the only one. From across the globe, we were about 5 or 6 of us who stayed on Cambridge University campus for a couple of days to curate and articulate a program which is so relevant in today's time. So, that was my journey with Cambridge. Along with that, of course, I went on to head the high school. I was also, our school was accredited by this Council of International Schools and New England Association of Schools and Colleges, which are accrediting bodies for schools and colleges in the US, in Europe.
This is Bangalore International School?
Yes, in Bangalore International School. And then from that organization, I went on to lead quality for the entire school from K to 12. And that was my first glimpse of what education from K to 12 looks like. Of course, I was leading high school. Then I also another opportunity. I should call that as an opportunity, because one of the college counselor in our school, she fell sick, and as said, it was just again a probably 2011-12 batch, and kids she had sent in the transcripts to the U.S. universities. Lots of kids had applied to the U.S., and suddenly many of them started getting rejected. And she was sick, so or her mom was sick, and she had just left in between, and nobody knew what college counseling was. So, but just because I was in high school, I dealt with children every day, and for me to see kids getting rejected, it was just painful. And then parents started writing back. Then I think they wrote to the university to say why it was, and it came out that the children's predicted grades were not up to the mark, and we were surprised. Then we went back. Then we made an appeal, and that's one was my first, without, but there was an heart and intent that this cannot happen to my children. So we appealed to the universities and said that this was done by somebody who probably was not in the right frame of mind, and this would happen. So we applied, and that was my first stint with how do you support children to transition from schools to colleges. And then again my head of school said, I think you should take this up, get trained. So I went to the US, went to Georgetown, again did a short course there, a summer course, came back, started my career as a college counselor in 2012, if I'm not wrong. And from then on, I think the journey had been amazing, because getting to know children, otherwise we knew as educators, our journey stopped at 12th. The kids finished 12th and they moved out. But when you're doing this, you realize the spark, the potential, what kids have beyond that. And that was an amazing, amazing journey for me. Yeah. And then of course, I went to Legacy. Legacy headed the school, and today in Chaman, I think each of them, I've had amazing mentors, amazing leaders who have believed, and I think they've just always said, no, you can do it. And I think that probably got me to do.
So we have a lot of curriculums, IB, IGCSE, A levels, AS levels.
Yes.
It's, these days parents are going crazy trying to figure out which one is the right one for their child.
Right.
Can you throw some light on each one? What do they follow? And what are your thoughts? How are they different?
Right. So, I agree, it can be very, very stressful for parents making the choices. And today, parents being very open about it, right? So, we had the state board, then we had the ICSE, we had the CBSE, the Indian curriculum to choose from. And then now the IB, the Cambridge program. And all of them, are good fits for some type of kids. So, I would say if it's a child looking for if you're looking at international curriculum, if you're open to the breadth of curriculum, you're open to having a lot more research, you're open to being more independent learner, we would say, I would recommend, because in my current school, we run both ICSE and IB program. And end of grade 5 is when the teachers, till grade 5, we are teaching the depth of what an ICSE curriculum would want, is expected. And in 11th, in the IB, there is a breadth. So we try to make sure that kids have the concepts, the skills, and the dispositions what is needed for all the programs. But grade 5, I think we are able to say, I think this kid would benefit better from this program. So as a school, we make this recommendation to parents, and we still give them a choice. We educate them, we orient them, then make a choice. So this is with respect to the IB. So IB, of course, is a beautiful program. Personally, I just love that program because of the overarching philosophy behind it and its alignment with what our school's philosophy is. Our school's philosophy talks about makers of leaders, and IB talks about creating knowledgeable, inquiring, caring individuals who are able to make this world a peaceful world. So I think it is not stopping at marks and grades, but it's about, what are you doing with that? Are you making this world? I think we need more children who are going to be thinking of education beyond, as a form of more self empowerment than anything, or a realization of self actualization, I would say, than just to be limited with marks and grades. So if you're not looking at only marks and grades, which generally, I mean, in national curriculum, fortunately, unfortunately, though it is not designed that way, but I think we get caught up in a rat race here, which is so unfortunate. But when you come to Cambridge program, Cambridge also has a depth. So sometimes parents say, we want to have the best of both worlds. So maybe a Cambridge curriculum works well. The IGCSE is up to grade 10. They expected for them to have an ICE diploma. They need to have about 8 subjects, all from about 8 subject groups.
Okay.
So this is up to 10th. Whereas in 11th and 12th, kids have a choice to choose any 4 subjects, and they want to study just the engineering part of it. So A level gives them that option. But if you're doing the IBDP, you still have to study all the 6 subject groups, which has the maths, the sciences, the languages, the second languages, the humanities, the creative arts. Because IB has a different philosophy. They feel, let's not limit our learning in a very more siloed world. It has to be more interdisciplinary. So IB focuses more on interdisciplinary learning.
And do you think IB has, if a child takes up IB in the 11th and 12th, he has more opportunities to choose from in college?
So lots, right? I mean, earlier
than IGCSE, what I mean.
So again, I think both are very well accepted in India and overseas. The challenge earlier was that maybe, I mean, when I started IB way back in 2006-7, the recognition of IB in India was not much. The universities in India didn't even know what IB was, right? So even for us to appeal, we had to go to the Association of Indian Universities to get it recognized. We went through many stages, and we had to make those appeals to say, IB is as rigorous. It is in fact more rigorous than many of the programs. So since there were those initial challenges, most of the children who took up the IB went overseas. So I remember while, initial phase, about 90% of my children in Bangalore International School went overseas if they did the IB or Cambridge program. But now the beauty is India is recognizing this. Now, if you look at it, even what recent news talks about Haryana government, the Telangana government, all adopting IB as a part of the state mandate. I think it's such a progressive, model of how we are approaching learning, being open about it, not being content focused so much, but also being focused on skills, on dispositions, what children need to have. So, but now what has happened is, but there was a limitation. But the beauty right now is from 2010 or 11, the India's education, higher ed has started changing. And with NEP 2020, which has come in, I think there's a huge thrust on how higher ed has evolved. Why? Because the new age universities which have started coming up, is it Ashoka, is it Flame, is it Kriya, it's Ajim Premji for that matter, all these universities are talking about liberal art education, which is allowing children to have a choice to pick subjects. For example, in IB, you have a choice, right? You have a whole lot of choice you can pick. You don't have to study in siloed. I can do a math major and a music minor, which is possible even in the IB because you do an higher level and a standard level course. But that when you went to a university, a traditional college in India, children didn't have an opportunity. After that, they said, oh, why did we study all this? Because they again were compartmentalizing them. So now, with these universities opening up and also opening up opportunities for these children, that after having done this, I can study few semesters here, few semesters in Cambridge, and few semesters in Harvard or Stanford. I think this is what NEP has done, and I'm super excited about the golden age of education in India is what I would say now. It's a beautiful start, and to say that India is going to become the third largest economy by 2030, I have absolutely no doubt about it.
So, do you think financial literacy should be included in our curriculum, in even IB curriculum?
Yeah, I think financial literacy as a subject is not there in the IB
Yeah.
also. You're right, absolutely right.
Yeah.
And I think it's a need of the hour. Kids today don't even know how, money is transacted
Yeah.
for that matter. For schools like that, of course, now with times like Bitcoins or cryptocurrencies
Yeah.
also being discussed,
Yeah.
it seems so theoretical if you
Yeah.
don't understand what, and now with GPay, phone pay,
Yeah.
even in India, for that matter, if you see, I mean, I was surprised. I was on this flight from I think Texas, Dallas to New York, and I met one gentleman on the flight, and he said that he was in the UK and he had just come to India recently. And he says, I visited India 20 years later. And he says, the way India has evolved, he says, you have phone pay, you have Google Pay. And he was telling that, in his country, in the UK, or even the US, I mean, we don't find any of that.
Yeah.
So when you see that happening,
Yeah.
and you see our children still not being literate,
Yeah.
right, financially.
Yeah.
So what do we do as schools? We know that there is so we just recently, for my grade 3, just 15 days ago, we just did this tuck shop. And we got them to make things. It could be baking cookies, to making the bookmarks, to writing recipe books.
Okay.
And the way the project was given to children, we said, now you're going to make, how are you going to sell this? How do you understand money? So they sent out an email with the help of teachers that
Yeah.
please get cash starting with 5 rupee coin to 100 rupees. So people understood, and then they had to give back change. They had to understand that. Then even grades 1 and 2, we take them to these departmental stores.
Okay.
Tell the parents, just send 100 rupee note or something, and let children have a choice to
Yeah.
buy what they want.
Yeah.
And we said, don't buy everything for yourself. See what you want to give to somebody else.
It's beautiful.
Right? Yeah. So when they do that, I think it's just a sense we are trying to build in.
Yeah.
It will take time, but I think it's a need of the hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. The IB curriculum includes social emotional learning. What is being taught here and why is it important? Why do you think emotion is more important than understanding?
Yeah, I think with today's generation of children, right? I mean, they are so caught up. I think there is this Gen Alpha, what we say, right? This generation is very aware, no doubt.
Yeah.
But also there is this cognitive overload we are talking about
Yeah.
on this generation of children.
Yeah.
There's so much what they are consuming
Yeah.
online or through different media. It could be video, it could be audio, it could be podcast, and also they are so worried about how virtual people look at them, how
Yeah.
they feel. So with that, I think the mental stress what they're going through is humongous.
Yeah.
So what as IB says, and is also one of the recommendation when you apply for IB authorization, is having a well-being counselor, a
Yeah.
personal counselor in school. So we have weekly once a school counselor who attends is part of the curriculum for children,
Okay.
who does sessions on children, on anxiety, on well-being, or bullying, or
Yeah.
body shaming, body imaging, all that, because these are general
Yeah.
things what our kids are getting exposed to,
Yeah.
and this overwhelms them.
Yes.
So how are we working around to make sure
Yeah.
that these kids are still feeling safe, because you want a psychological safety for them.
Yeah.
And today's generation of children are, even on the home front, if you see, there are many factors which are, they live in,
Influencing.
very solitary families,
Yeah.
and they don't have friends. And with, of course, COVID, the screen time has increased so much, which has
Yeah.
also created a lot more stress for
Yeah.
kids.
Absolutely, I
Yeah.
agree. And mental health issues have become huge.
Huge. I
So
think India is said to be the suicidal capital of the
yeah,
world.
yeah,
And when you see that, it is worrisome, right?
yeah.
And they just need anchors. So we as a school have buddy system. We have
Okay.
mentors in school.
Okay.
So, and apart from the school counselor, we have all these factors. And my office itself is an open door policy. We just said anytime you can just walk in at any time. We don't let children to bottle up feelings.
Yeah.
We make sure that they're coming up, speaking to somebody. In fact, our student council has taken it upon themselves big time. They have opened up that if you feel you're not comfortable talking to any adult, we are there. So, these are safety blankets which they have
Yeah.
created for themselves.
That's lovely. And what are the three most important skills in children you focus on in your current school? I mean, what are the important qualities that will take them ahead in future? Do you think it's leadership, decision making,
Yeah.
motivation, innovation,
So,
resilience?
yeah. So our school, of course, our school's philosophy is makers of leader, and based on that, we have 5 leadership pillars. So which is learn to live together. I think that's such an important skill
Yeah.
in today's time, because children are living such a solitary life,
Yeah.
and learning to live together, to collaborate together. I think those skills are so pertinent in today's time. Then you are talking about learn to lead, learn to act, because if you are not able to be those social responsible people, I think what solutions of the world are you going to be resolving, right? So these are aspects which you are making sure kids are learning. So this is with respect to leadership. With respect to, again, we are very heavy on innovation. Our children are doing amazing stuff, amazing, right? Though I used to take pride in myself that I know technology, I knew computers, but today I just feel such a misfit.
Yeah.
Because when I hear about that they are designing they're designing robots, or they're designing satellites which is able to fly 24 kilometers above, or able to create those mini satellites which is able to have sensors about humidity sensor, temperature sensor, all of them, and come back and say this is how. And then another group of kids, they just did a agro drone recently, and that was about how do you spray insecticides in a 1 acre of land in some 15 minutes or something. And just to see that they've created drones, designed it, written program for it, created a chip circuit for that, and to see them fly it, and you say wow. Then another group of kids, they said, you know what, the Bangalore lakes are so polluted, we need to create a hovercraft. And they created a hovercraft which is an amphibious thing. And I'm amazed. I said, if somebody tells me to do that, I just don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
But they are talking about all this, right?
Wow.
I mean,
So
they're
how
amazing.
how do you keep them engaged and motivated to do these
So,
things?
of course, we are intentional. We are very intentional about technology, leadership, and responsibility, right? And accountability. All these 4 factors are very, very important for us in a curriculum, and that drives what we do. So, we are making sure in terms of when we're designing the curriculum itself, we're making sure that these aspects of leadership, innovation, of responsibility, all are embedded into the curriculum. So it's just not done randomly, but there's an intent to make sure that what we have defined ourselves for, we are meeting that in every lesson we design.
What do you think is the ideal way of assessment or evaluation process? What should be followed by schools?
Right.
Because marks is not the ultimate, and these days students are so stressed about getting good marks, and parents also get stressed about it. So what do you feel? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think in India, traditionally, I mean, for the last couple of years now, I think the focus definitely has been on marks. For somebody as an educator, we term that as assessment of learning. But in our schools like us, the focus more is on assessment for learning. We just said, is a child learning? How is he learning? What are the different ways he's learning? I think that is the focus, then the end goal. We always tell children, if marks is just another byproduct of what you've done, but go back to reflect where you went wrong, how we did it, how could we do better. Start to looking at how do you excel at what you do. Then the focus be only on marks and grades, right? In the end, that does matter at a much higher level. But when we talking up to grade 5, we don't even have exams
Yeah.
for children. We don't. We just make sure that parents don't know there is assessment. Some parents are very uncomfortable. We don't have textbooks, right? We don't have till IB, till grade 10th, we don't have textbooks. So
Yeah.
parents are very uncomfortable. They say, how? We need to teach them at home. We say, no, don't worry. Our kids will do it. So, that there's a mind shift. We want to make a mind shift in the
Yeah.
way parents perceive it.
Yeah.
Kids are very easy. I mean, they know how it is. In fact, they don't want to go back and tell parents. And we know they say, we know how. The parents say if they come back, they don't even do homework. They're always on the internet or they're doing this. And we say, no, they're learning. Don't worry. If there is a problem, we will reach out. So, yeah.
Yes, that's amazing. But I think in India, it's going to take a long time to make that shift, right? Because it's hard.
It is hard.
Yeah.
Again, why? Because
The
India,
mentality is different.
yes, it's a
Yeah.
very, very different model,
Yeah.
right? We are looking for economic
Yeah.
growth.
Yeah.
So that comes at, we are very competitive. We have a
Yeah.
huge population of 1.4 billion people. How do you find out who comes and
Yeah.
gets into what university, right?
Yeah.
So marks is one of the big components.
Yeah.
Whereas in the universities overseas, marks is one of the component. Whereas in universities in India, marks is the only
Yeah.
component. And that saddens, right?
Exactly.
Because a child is beyond a mark. He's so much more. He
Yeah.
has, we are missing out on the other aspects of what a kid can do.
Yeah.
So much of service a kid is doing, so much of, problem solving, creative aspects what a kid has.
Yeah.
And we just neglect everything. But today, I mean, if you look at World Economic Forum, says that creativity is the third highest or amongst the top 3 skills anybody should have for future jobs. And where is that being addressed in India for that
Yeah.
matter? So with NEP 2020, there is hope. It's still a long way to go, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it can turn either ways because the previous 3 policies which India came up with, they all flopped,
Yeah.
right? For some or the other reason. The intent was right. I don't want this to flop. That's what.
So, your thoughts on taking notes with a pen paper versus using tablets, introducing interactive whiteboards into their lessons? What do you feel? What are the advantages, disadvantages?
Taking the paper pencil, definitely, I think is a deeper engagement to
Yeah.
learning in a very traditional way. It has its own benefit.
Yeah.
Definitely benefit because you are actually investing your time in thinking, putting the effort. You're not also copying pasting from the internet for that
Yeah.
matter. So that definitely has its advantage. But having said that, do I restrict my child only to pen and paper? I think then we are missing the plot. I would say that you need the best of both because already most education models, if you're looking at an SAT examination which tests children overseas, or you're doing the currently IB, MYP, is totally computerized assessment. DP is getting into computerized assessment in a 2 years time. They're getting in. Cambridge is looking at the same model. So we know that education is going to be evolving, where
Yeah.
testing is also going to happen online.
Yeah.
So to not get kids to be acquainted with that,
Mm-hmm.
I think that also is not fair, right?
Yeah.
But it's just that how consciously and how in a balanced way are we making sure that this is also happening, and also their preparedness
Yeah.
for the future is also happening. And that's something which we are very mindful of in our
Mm.
school when we're working towards.
Mm. And the impact of AI has been revolutionary across all the fields. So, can you elaborate how AI is used and how it has changed education? And what are its challenges also?
Yeah. Uh, I think AI, for that matter, um, do you need to have it? I would say yes. If you don't have it or you don't encourage that in your classroom, our kids will not benefit. But again, I said it is about having the right balance, being aware of the opportunities and the challenges it brings in to our classroom or to the children's learning. So, if you're talking about AI for that matter, I think AI can be a great tool if you're using it for creating personalized assessments for kids, because it can just personalize it to a child's level, the way the
Wow.
kid learns, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or you're using it to give you a big picture of an assignment, what do I want, right? Or even if it's helping you to create your, change your grammar or work towards it, it's okay. I mean, these are tools, fine. But overall, with chat gpt coming in, right, how do you, so we are aware, we can't shy away. We also know that there's no escaping from it, because from a university to school, everybody is struggling with this tool. It just came to disrupt everybody last 2 3 years now. And how do we manage that? We said, okay, it is here to stay. So we only educate our children to be responsible, the responsible use of ChatGPT. He said, just in case you've used it, even as a reference, please make sure you're acknowledging that, because that itself is being ethical in the way you are. So we are talking to them about aspects, which is about making sure kids are, aware of the responsibility they have. But we also tell them, we know when it's a chat GPT generated essay versus when you have done it.
Yeah.
I know you, right? I mean, in
Yeah.
a classroom. Because in the end, when we send this extended essay to IB, a 4,000 word essay, as a teacher, if I'm a teacher, I have to sign off that this is the child's original piece of work.
Yeah.
And this is where we educate children to say, you know what, if I'm not convinced, I'm not going to sign this off, right? So, if at all, IB also recognizes that if at all children are using it, as long as they're able to acknowledge that and they're able to do it where the originality of their thought is still retained,
Yeah.
it's, I mean, we have
Useful.
nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, we just have to manage that, navigate this path to
Yeah.
see how we make the best of both the worlds. That's it.
Absolutely. So, what are your thoughts on personalized learning, digital personalized learning? Because, I mean, we all know that each student, every student has a different style and pace of learning, and we burden them with all subjects. They could be really good at probably maths or physics and not be good at history, geography. So what are your thoughts? Is it important that they learn or they go through all the subjects even if they're not interested?
So, yes, what I would say is, very early on,
Yeah.
we encourage them, right? We encourage them to explore them, expose them to as many.
Okay.
Because once you do that, because without knowing, their outlook could be so
Yeah.
myopic, and we
Yeah.
don't want that to be.
Yeah.
We wanting making sure that we are putting them in some uncomfortable zone,
Yeah.
but also at the same time with a little more care and
Yeah.
empathy,
Yeah.
so that they don't feel overwhelmed.
Yeah.
But you never know, sometimes children just pick that up because they don't have the knowledge.
Yeah.
So first is we expose them. But when it comes to times when they have to start making their choices, right, of the subjects, what they like to pursue. For example, it's Cambridge, or for that matter, IB. Cambridge will give you, I mean, it also has this ICE diploma. It also says you can study still 5 subjects. And that 5 subjects, as long as they've studied 5 subjects with English,
Yeah.
and
Maths.
English as a subject and another second language, they're fine with that.
Okay.
So if it is a child is not wanting to study math for that matter, or wanting to study any other history for that matter, a kid has the choice to study. So these are definitely possible with the international boards, both the international boards. IB, definitely IB tries to say that, math is integral. You study at the standard level, but there's no giving up math if you're doing the diploma program. But it also has a IB certificate program. It also has a IBCP program, that is the career program. So that allows children to be very niche in what they want to choose or work with. That's a vocational training where he or she, if a subject, the child is very clear, this is what I want to study in the future, he can only go back to specialize with business, economics, and with a music or something like that, which is possible.
Yeah.
So this is so personalized to that level. With current education systems right now, the curriculum, that flexibility is still limited.
Yeah. One of your recent opinion, you've emphasized the importance of STEAM education in schools and in India. So, what changes do you believe are necessary to implement this effectively in schools?
Right. India primarily has been a very STEM focused school.
Yeah.
It has reaped its benefit, and it's continuing to reap the benefit because we have been a STEM focused country for that matter. But I think it's time for India now to ensure that we also got arts as part of the larger framework of education, because STEM is about science, technology, engineering, math. But children today are more than that, right? They have art, the creative aspects, which we are missing out. And we all talk about it in schools about holistic development. Where is it holistic? We again go back to focus on children who are, very STEM focused. So, we as an education, I mean, in our school, of course, we have many, many aspects which make sure that learning is interdisciplinary, where arts, sports, music, dance, drama, everything is integral. And every subject is treated with the same amount of, value. So the child, initially kids would think, or parents say, why are you teaching them art? This has no value. And we said, no, it has the same amount of value, especially IB program. And art is as important as a science, or as important as a math for that matter. And our school's philosophy is also similar. So no, none of these subjects are given any stepmotherly treatment, right? We are making sure. So first is, what is our intent? And if we are living that practice, and we are making sure that every subject gets the due importance. And we also, ensure our children go on a field trip. Our learning or our assessment is done by all the teachers. It's not only by the STEM teachers or the language teachers, including the teachers who are art teachers or music. So everybody has an assessment. And then there is a consolidated, assessment, grading or whatever comes by in that. So that is what we do. So we also have something called a PBL, which is a big event in our school. Every year in the month of February, we do a PBL exhibition, which is project based learning. And that ensures that the children have embedded learnings across all disciplines. And they're also creating solutions to real world problems. And real world problems cannot only be tackled with science and math, right? If you don't have an understanding of, what the real world issues are, I mean, you cannot find solutions. So we would say that creativity, innovation, emotional intelligences, I think these become part of the A bit of the STEAM. And that's so critical for today's learners to look at learning beyond the siloed of a particular education framework, making education a lot more broader, a lot more inclusive. I think that is what STEAM education is all about. And it's time for India to make that change. And the good news is, the liberal art education model, which is started in the higher ed space, many good universities have come up, is already accommodating that. So what's stopping schools from taking it on right now, right? So I think we should all be ready for it, embrace it wholeheartedly, for our children's sake.
And there was this interesting topic called hydroponics, if I'm not wrong, that you were mentioning. So what is it exactly? So,
you know what, again, as a part of sustainability projects, our children, again, we are very high on student agency. We want kids to take leadership is one of the aspects, as I told, is a part of our leadership philosophy. We encourage children. Student council takes a big role. We also have students who, take on certain projects. And one of our student groups, there was two girls in that MYP 5 of ours. They just said, we want to start this hydroponics project in school, which is about a form of horticulture, which is soilless, right? It's grown using water and minerals. It's a more sustainable way of making sure that, you're growing plants in a more organic way. And the beauty of it is the kids grow, the spinach, they're growing chilies, they're growing brinjals, they're growing a couple of vegetables. And every parent-teacher meeting, or any time we have a parent orientation, they will bring that and make sales. And that goes back again, just to see, and for them to see, see the product of what they're doing, and in a more sustainable way, and driving that message across to the school community. I think it's so heartwarming. I think I would have never thought of something while growing up. Probably that awareness is also wouldn't have been there. But today's generation of children are so aware, aware. I have a grade 2 kid called Kyle who comes to my office. I was just on my rounds, and she says, I went to your office. You know what? You had switched on your light and fan and come. Do you know there's a hole in the ozone layer and you should switch it off? I said, sorry, ma'am, I shouldn't do that. So this is how, when these kids are so aware, what are we doing? And this generation is definitely, they are advocates, they're champions of it. And, what are the opportunities we are creating? How are we encouraging them for the initiatives they're taking? And hydroponics was one of them.
Okay. Yeah. Would you recommend tutoring after school? I mean, if a child is not good at any particular subject and if they have to perform better, what are your thoughts on that?
uh, Tutoring, I personally, I'm not in favor of tutoring at all, because I think then as a school have we missed it, right?
Right.
As a school, are we making sure, is our learning so personalized? Are we making sure that child is benefiting? Are we created assessments or learning opportunities or learning engagements for kids, which probably we didn't do it as a school well enough.
Yeah.
That's why the child could not
Mm.
needs extra help.
Yeah.
But sometimes, children come from different countries.
Yeah.
And when they come from different countries, what happens is there have been gaps. For example, they come and they haven't studied a particular language. Uh, for example, Hindi they haven't studied. During such times, you need them to do the catch up place.
Mhm.
And there's a bridging. During the bridging time, we say if the school is not able to create those opportunities, which in our school it does, right? I know teachers stay back till 6 o'clock sometimes, and it comes from just their personal interest to be helping children.
Mhm.
And these teachers are there for children. Either they're coming early and they just say, my office is open, it's an open office, you come in anytime. Or they have it in the evening and they say, you come in. But if those opportunities are not there in some schools,
Mhm.
and the children are benefiting from the additional support, then I think it's okay.
Yeah.
Because a child has to ultimately feel confident and does not have to miss a class or feel not confident in a class for the future classes. So if somebody is doing that just in the interest of the child, or the parent feels the benefit because there is no support in school, then I think it's a choice the school and the parent makes.
Okay.
But personally, yeah, I think in all the schools I've worked in, we never, I mean, we always had the teachers were always so giving, and most of the time, now it's even more easier because there are these online models. I have teachers currently in my MYB 5 who are saying that the child goes home by bus and they reach by 6 o'clock, and they have classes for them from 8 to 9, online classes. And did I enforce that? No, it just comes from within, from some teachers. And that's what I'm very grateful and inspired by some teachers who I work with. My colleagues are really amazing sometimes. Yeah.
So, what do you think a country can learn from the success of other countries like Singapore, Scandinavian countries, giving the constraints that we have and we face? So, what do you feel?
For us, I think, like as you mentioned, STEAM for one, for sure. I think STEAM education, giving liberal art or children the freedom to express, have a voice and choice. Kids in these countries, even till much higher age group, till 8 or 10 years, I think no, they don't even, they're not forced to read, right? I mean, they just are giving a play way of learning, and that is through inquiry, through self discovery. And that aspect is missing in our country. And I would say that I think create those opportunities for children. There's so much within them. Don't kill the childhood. Don't kill the childhood with marks and grades. The competition which they say, my child in a skating competition, the child is some 3 years or 4 years, didn't get the first prize. I mean, really, I think, are you really getting there? I think we should just stop this competitive spirit in a more negative way. I think that's what we as a country should start. And I think we're in a good position right now. And it's time for India's time has come. And I think our parents are also getting aware and spend more time with our children. I mean, what's happened again, which again saddens me, the milestones. As school leaders, we design this curriculum at the beginning of the year before children come in. And we have a curriculum planning which we do for kids in coming in grade, either it's playgroup or early years. And we knew that children at a particular stage, it could be by 2 years or 3 years, they reach a developmental milestone, which is sensory motor, or it is communication, it is problem
Fine motor
solving,
skills,
or it is even social skills. But what we have noticed now, right, and we are trying to figure that out as educators, thinking, is it screen time, is it parents not available, or is it too much over parent protection? We don't know what it is. But now we see the curriculum plans what we had, or we expected children to come with certain milestone at a particular age group. we're already seeing lapses there. And that's worrying because
Yeah.
I'm saying, why is it happening? And when I talk to my colleagues in the early years, the teachers there, and they say, you know what, we had designed this, but kids are coming, even if there's a pencil which is fallen, a child will tell a teacher to pick it. Naturally, a kid would go to pick it up, but that's coming down. And that sometimes is worrying us. We're saying, why are kids becoming like that? Right? They refuse to eat. A parent comes and tells us sometimes, they say, because during this COVID, I think everybody got addicted to TV, or that was just the solace, or that was the only friend there. The child just refuses to eat because if there is no TV, the child won't eat. So the parent comes and tells us, when my kid is eating, please make sure TV is on. And we say, no, we are not going to do that because we are just worried of the way the developmental delays are happening for children.
Absolutely.
The number of children, we are an inclusive school, the number of children who are needing shadow support, or the children who are requiring, learning, specialized learning needs, I think it's grown up huge. Children coming with speech delays. And I'm just saying, why, right? I don't know, data over time is going to throw. Is it a COVID issue? Is it much more than that? I have no idea. And that intrigues us. And it
it's
worries us
scary.
too.
Yeah. With your teachers in school, how do you kind of counsel, and how does it, how do you stand out?
So for us, right? For me personally, I think I always took any opportunity which came by.
Yeah.
I just enjoyed the thrill of doing something new. That's in my personality. I'm also very hardworking. I think I'm unapologetic about that, but I'm very hardworking. Sincere in what I do, and I get into the deepest level of how to do a thing. And also I have also understood that there are no shortcuts to hard work at all, right? So when this new generation of teachers are coming, and if they're coming, they want to reach up the leadership scale quickly. We encourage that. We definitely, because when we do this we do this appraisal system, I do ask them, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And if leadership is on their card, I'll ensure that we create as many opportunities. It is through professional development or through opportunities through shadowing programs, so that they're quickly getting into that. But along with that, we expect them to have the right attitude to learn, and the right patience, because these all sometimes comes with a lot more experience and patience and the attitude. And this generation, if the youngsters are coming in, they have a little less of that. They want to just do it very quickly, which probably doesn't go deeper, right? And that's what we again need to sit and counsel and work with them. But it's something which is definitely doable, and we want many more people to come into the field of education, because there are so many children waiting out, right, to get the best teachers. And we have it. And it's just about creating that. And hopefully we will. I'm very optimistic.
So when you talk about college counseling these days, everyone, parents especially, they are so stressed out, and there are so many things to do. And should we actually be stressed out as parents? What, how can the process be easier? As in, what do you feel these days is the trend?
Right. So what I see is the awareness amongst parents is quite low,
Yeah.
right? Generally.
Yeah.
So what is it? I think it's a responsibility of the school. Most good schools will have a college counselor in-house, right?
Okay.
The challenge is, of course, not when schools don't have it. Of course, they go back and rely on external agencies and all that. But when you have a model in school, it's about how quickly are you getting the parent community, the student community to be aware of what a college transition would look like. So be it, does it require what sort of grades is one aspect, but we also talk about much more, right? Are you also talking about essays? Are you also writing about an aptitude test? Are you writing about recommendation letters? So essay, the college application is far beyond that. And also, what is it your child is interested in studying? Instead of thinking that I have to go to an Ivy League, because there is this pressure with the parent that if I'm spending money, I am going to send this child here. But many times there are child is the right fit for a particular university. And you see the child is also getting like a full university scholarship. I've had so many kids like that who'd go on a full scholarship. But sometimes parents think, why it's not an Ivy League. So even these are things where you say, where are we going? I also understand, again, back then, now I think these countries in Asia are getting popular. But back then, I think apart from US, parents never thought of any other country. It was probably something they said it doesn't make sense. But today, this Gen Alpha, they're talking about K-pop, they're talking about fashion. So, and I just had recently a girl saying, I want to study Korean as a second language. I said, why? She said, because I want to go to Korea to study. And this, for me,
It's refreshing.
it's very refreshing. Because Japan, I knew there's this scholarship which Japan runs, which is called MEXT scholarship. And one kid had gotten a scholarship, full waiver. The kid didn't go because they said, no, I think we would like to go to the US, right? So, but that is changing now again. I think Asia is becoming a place where people are saying, okay. And more than that, I think India is becoming a place, a hub.
Okay, that's great, because even I had these things running in my mind that these days most parents only want to send their children to US. So why not India? Why not Singapore? Why not UK?
UK, yeah. And they're price wise so lucrative.
Yeah.
I think the trend is changing. The number which has started staying back in India, because I said 90% then to saying about 60% going in from the same school, 40% staying in India, is definitely, the data is showing that people are wanting to stay back in India. Because for these kids, there are opportunities up back in India, which was not there in the past. So I think we are in the right direction.
And what institutes in India are equivalent to the Ivy League schools and colleges?
So again, I don't want to undermine the IITs, right? Even IIT is changing its model.
Absolutely.
It is also bringing in a liberal art element. If you look at it, some of these IIT Madras has introduced a program which has a liberal art model. Even the way the teaching methodology,
even IIT Hyderabad,
IIT Hyderabad is changing. So these are the traditional colleges. Even if you look at in Bangalore, for that matter, Christ and these universities are anyway changing their model. But I think the new age universities, which again started this trend, like Ashoka for that matter, I think they have been phenomenal. Flame, Ashoka, now OP Jindal, we have Kriya, Plaksha. I think these are, and every day, Shivnadar for that matter, Ahmedabad University, creating, huge ripples in what parents are perceiving, and lots of kids have started going there. And they're also getting placed back, right, in great institute. I think it's just about that data to come out to see kids going into these places are getting placed in Amazons and Facebooks and Google, right? This is going to change the mindset of people. It's about seeing is believing, and that is already happening now.
How involved should parents be in a child's education?
They should be in to great extent, in the sense, yes, to give them the emotional support, the other aspects of a child's development. But beyond that, I think let kids be. They will learn. They will enjoy. More we become helicopter parents. I think we are taking away the childhood. We are taking away the, being overprotective. We are over, curating their life. And I think that's just leave them as individual identities. They will grow, become wonderful human beings.
So, what are inquiry-based learning, project-based learning, team-building learning? How do they promote critical thinking? And can you give us some examples?
Right. So, project-based learning, as I told you, that in our school we do have, like, a school gets through, we decide on a big school-wide project. For example, I think 2 years ago, a school had taken water as a theme. And water was a big theme. Based on that, how water could be related to every child, every lesson, every subject. And the kids created art forms to music out of it, to creating solving real world problems related to water shortage. So this year what we have is, I think the team currently, they've adopted 3 UN goals. One is UN goal number 12, 13 is climate action, 12
Yeah.
is responsible production and consumption, UN
Okay.
goal 12, and quality education. Three goals they have taken, and they are working around project based learning. I mean, creating a project based on how do we become responsible citizens by saving, right? Being better, making sure that we are saving energy, we are saving. Responsibly
Yeah.
consuming. We've just started the cafeteria, so we used to see children, not being responsible. So that these are aspects which are taken in to make sure that learning is more contextual,
Yeah.
more relatable, more
Yeah.
real life. Similarly, with respect to they are very similar in many
Yeah.
ways.
Inquiry based and
Yes, they're very
Mm.
similar. It's just the acronyms and the
Yeah.
way the approaches to it is changing, but it is about taking children on field trips or making sure that learning is as relatable and as contextual, and also being ethical problem solvers in
Yeah.
what you are trying to do. Right? Are
Mhm.
you doing it with a lot more conscience, lot with responsibility, lot with balance?
Mhm.
So these are something which is ingrained into all these programs.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Ultimately, are you solving problems for human needs? So that becomes the crux of what we do in our school.
Yeah. And what is exactly the like we have AI, coding, robotics, MUN. So how are these different than each other, and how are they helping students these days?
So I think the future of education is a lot related
Yeah.
to AI, having robotics. So we have in our school, we from
Yes.
grade one onwards, robotic is one of the uh, you know stay subjects in our school.
Okay.
And when they come to grade 3,
Yeah.
we have AI, we have robotics with Lego.
Okay.
So it starts with Lego, starts in Lego with robotic, where they
Yeah.
start coding
Yeah.
using Scratch programming.
Yeah.
And that when you go on to higher levels, then they go into AI,
Yeah.
right? So this is how we have scaled it up in our school. So this again as a journey, it's a very planned curriculum which is done with our innovation team
Mhm.
teachers, and they're ensuring that and kids as early as about MYP, that means in grade 6, 7, they've already created their drones, they're flying their drones, they are launching their own satellites. Last time they launched those big satellites, this time they've launched CanSat. And to see them launch those satellites and see, I mean, these are part of the program which is fully designed by them and they are decided. So currently we also have carpentry, we have the 3D printing in our school. So we make sure we take our children to on these field trips, and we should say when we take them, we say identify problems which you want to solve. And it comes from their own personal experience, and they all come back to class and say, you know what, I saw this and I think I want to solve this problem. So they come back collectively, they have a choice to make a group project to solve a problem, and then they have individual projects which they work on. This is part of our technology classes.
Sounds like they're leaders already, huh?
Yeah, they do amazing stuff. So recently our kids we went to this orphanage because we had this a student council, and for past 2 years there was lost and found with lots of pencil boxes and water bottles and jackets which was there. So kids came back, they said, you know what, we want to give it to an orphanage. They came back, segregated 2 years of data, I mean the stuff, into different carton boxes, and they said we are going. And this was the first time they took the badges, and that was the first initiative. My student council took it up and went. So when they went there, right, this was not something which we planned, but they went in, gave them the lost and found items. Along with that, they had bought themselves some things what they wanted to contribute. So this was an orphanage with 78 orphan girls who were abandoned. And these kids came back and they were emotional, extremely emotional. And they felt bad for them. And they come back and then they said, you know what, we want to create a library for them. And the library, we thought, okay, let's see what they're going to do. And since we also teach carpentry in our school, they've actually sat down. Now they're creating a mobile library for them with wood.
Wow.
And then they're bringing books, and they say, we want to do that by December, by the joy of giving comes in. It's already half done, and it we never told them, and it came from them, right? That experience of a real life issue, and the kids feeling so emotional about the girls their age group feeling
Yeah.
so abandoned, and they saying, we are so fortunate, and they wanting to give it, that we want to make sure that they are educated, they learn better, and then they come out from the space they are. So these are, aspects which really is heartwarming.
So you also interacted with Alan Anderson. He his school in Finland has been one of the first to go digital completely, and
Right, right.
so and he was one of your
He was on the advisory, is the
Yeah.
director of our school.
Yeah.
Alan, again, a very inspiring person. He was the visionary. He was he was the founding principal of our school.
Okay.
A very fine gentleman.
What did you learn from him?
So for again, I think we shared many stories which are common with the Scandinavian way. For him, he has lived it, right? I mean, his childhood to what education model, and for me, when he talks about what he did or how he learned, and how you should let children be children, right?
Yeah.
For me, to equate that at a much age when I have gone into study and say what he says, I think that just resonates so much with who we are as a school, or why Chaman Bhartiya School uh, is the school what is on that belief system that we want makers of leaders.
Yeah.
And these leaders with digital technology, which
Yeah.
Alan brings in with the expertise, I think that has come in a long way in what CBS is doing. And CBS recently to be awarded as the top education top technology award by
Excellent.
Business World.
Congratulations.
Yeah. So that again goes to say, I think we are taking right steps in the right direction.
Yeah.
The vision with what the school was established, we are continuing to do that
Yeah.
as a team.
Yeah.
And I think, it's
So-
soul satisfying.
Yes. So we want to talk a little more about the school. I've been there too, and it's just fantastic. And the campus, the technology, the we-led curriculum, and so what excites you most about the school? And I also noticed that each student there is bubbling with confidence, and they are already in the making of a leader. So what is it that excites you most about the school, and what are the fun things that you do
In our school?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I think children are always amazing. I think that is wherever the kids are, I think the kids are amazing.
Yeah.
But what opportunities, what environment do we create in school? So our school is, they've experimented a lot, when it was design of the building itself, right? It is open, flexible classroom. Starting from a child in kindergarten, there are no walls, right? You continue, the children can move between classrooms, and it's done so well, and they know how to manage that.
Yeah.
And we are also learning from each other, right?
Yeah.
The walls inhibit creativity.
Yeah.
So we are very mindful and conscientious that the learning should not have wall, have flexibility to move around. So that's one aspect which stands out in our school. I think our team is doing pretty well with that. It has its own, sometimes when people don't come with that background or an openness, it takes a little time for them to understand. But in the end, I think the outcome is very, very satisfying.
Yeah.
So of course, there are children in senior classes, they have board exams or they have, tests or something. Then we have these options of getting into closed classrooms. But otherwise, it's be it our library, be it our atrium, I think it speaks about the flexibility and the freedom. Second, I'd say is our children don't have a school uniform. Right? Many people will think how, but I think again it goes with the philosophy of our school to give the children, not to be inhibited by a regimented way. Having said that, we do have a uniform once a week, just it's a house color uniform because we don't want them to lose the spirit of belongingness to a house. So it comes only from that space. But overall, for children to do express without any fear or with any dress code, that I think is just something which our children and parents love about it. Yeah.
And when you do a lot of fun things also, like the other day I came and there were these, every day there's something.
Oh yeah. We do
Uh,
some things like that.
yeah.
We make sure kids are.
What are they?
Like for example, right? We do whimsical Wednesdays,
Okay.
and that's during every Wednesday. during lunchtime. We have take 15 minutes of the lunchtime, which kids just look forward to. We want kids again a social, communal living together
Yeah.
is what we encourage,
Yeah.
because that's when the bonding and the school spirit comes in,
Yeah.
and the spirit of collaboration, which we want kids to look beyond class groups, beyond age groups, and making sure beyond house groups, right?
Yeah.
Everything together. And these are opportunities we continue to create. It's a whimsical Wednesday on Friday. We
Yeah,
have
Wednesday.
on every Wednesday, and this is what we do is we first Wednesday of the month we will have a Zumba session where the whole school, including teachers, during that time are getting together,
That's
and they
fun.
just do.
Yeah.
Then there is expressions where kids come in and play any instrument of their choice, or they come and sing a song, or there are what is it called,
Drum.
drums, musical instruments. So lots of things which happen on every Wednesday.
Yeah.
So children quickly eat,
Yeah.
and then they come to the atrium.
Yeah.
We have a beautiful atrium, and just to see that, there's joy on children's
Yeah.
and they all swinging to music and
Yeah.
dance, I think is just a treat in itself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you have
And
a
parents come back, and this is from a kid in kindergarten till grade 10 currently. Everybody is together enjoying those moments, right? So it is
Yeah.
amazing. Then on Thursdays, every Thursday, just for the primary school, during the assembly, we have 1 week we have debating, 1 way we have jam session, 1 way has quizzing. So what happens is we are also building in the 21st century skills
Yeah.
in a fun way,
Yeah.
but also in a way that they're inspiring
Yeah.
and getting others to be aspired for.
Absolutely.
So these are some of the things which we work around
Yeah.
all the time, every time. And then of course there are many after school clubs. Every Thursday, Friday we have Thursday, Friday clubs where children stay back. Children have a choice to from a huge number of sporting activities and a lot more performing art categories. Kids can choose anything on 2 days,
Yeah.
and they are taught during the school time. It's an extended
Yeah.
school hour,
Yeah.
but kids get these opportunities. Yeah.
And I even saw that you have a podcast room, a band, music band group,
Yes.
room, and AI room. It was fantastic. Who's behind these ideas actually? Who?
Right. So for us, I think it started with the chairman, Mr. Snehdeep Agarwal, who I think had a vision for a school. He's built, if you have ever visited Bhartiya city, it's a big community in itself. It's a
Yeah.
big township in itself, which is well integrated community, which has a mall, which has a 5-star, 7-star hotel, to a business park, to, houses, and
Yeah, it's
and then they
beautiful.
have a beautiful school here. So when he wanted to build a school, it came from a place because he's called it as Chaman Bhartiya School, is also coming from his father's name.
Okay.
And he wanted, so it is a very personal, emotional connect with the
Yeah.
school. So he just wants the school from that space that the children of our country, that's what he says, should have everything, right? And he went actually to Europe, Denmark. That's when he met Alan, and he loved the model of the schools there.
Okay.
And he said, no, I need to create that in India for our children. And that's what he built this.
Yeah.
And the beautiful definitely is one of the very beautiful schools I have worked in.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And so everything is very thoughtfully, mindfully built,
Yeah.
right? The learning environment is said to be the third teacher.
Yes.
And so there's a
Very
lot
much.
of heart and intent which has gone into building this.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of credit goes to Mr. Snehdeep Agarwal. And now his daughter, right, Parushni Agarwal, who is the vice chair, is also deeply invested in the school. It's very close to their heart. And that makes our life so much more simpler,
Yeah.
because they don't consider school as a business or
Yeah.
as a transactional model, but they do it from a place of heart.
Yeah.
And that makes us, they say, tell us what do you want. What do you want for children? And you just have to say, yeah, go ahead. This is how many people would have the luxury to think that way, but they
Yeah.
do, right?
Yeah.
And I think I'm pretty happy, and I'm very lucky, I would say, that I work with
Yeah.
such wonderful people. Yeah.
Amazing. So, what is the future plan for Chaman Bhartiya School, and anything interesting projects coming up,
Yes,
events coming up.
right. I think currently we just got the MYP authorization. We are very proud of
Congratulations.
it.
Yeah.
We also got the ICSE affiliation in April. So we
Okay.
know that, from students' academic and also making sure compliance wise, we are pretty set. We've also applied for DP candidacy
Yeah.
and we have got a DP candidacy phase. And we have pledged that before this year, academic year ends, we should work towards getting our, authorization so that next year we start our DP program. That is with our school here. But beyond that, I think what I understand from my communication with Mr. Agarwal and Parishni ji is that they're looking at expansion. They want this model to be successful and they want to open many schools,
Yeah.
which is going to create opportunities
And
for
make a
many children,
difference.
make a difference in many children's
Yeah.
life. And I think we need the good schools and good teachers, good educators, because our children deserve it.
Yeah. You also have some Tinkerfest coming up, right? If I'm not wrong.
Yes. Oh, yeah. That is another thing, which is Tinkerfest, which is going to be an inter-school event, which is happening in February. I think 21st. I think so, and where we are going to be hosting an inter-school tech fest, which includes sumo wrestling, to drone flying, to robotics. So we also have a robot in our school, which is called Mitra,
Okay.
which is designed and it is programmed by our children. And if you say he needs to go and do an exam invigilation, he's programmed, he'll come in, do the exam invigilation.
Wow.
Yeah, so these are, I
How
mean, these you
interesting.
can't think, it's very futuristic
Yeah.
already, right?
Yeah.
So to think that when you have all this in our school, to have a sumo wrestling doesn't come in as a surprise.
Yeah.
But for me, I am very intrigued to see how are our kids going. And they're making this as an inter-school
Yeah.
event. And we're looking forward for participation. So if any of the schools are listening to, we invite all of them, come in, just see and make sure your kids also come and participate and experience that. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Geeta. This was really informative, and I'm so glad for all the work that you're doing. And I wish you all the best for success in everything that you do.
Thank you, Neha.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
It's my pleasure. I think it was, I just had a great conversation with
Yes,
you. It
me
just
too.
felt like I've known you for some many
Yeah.
years. But overall, I think it was a very soul satisfying conversation,
Yes.
something very close to my heart. Children and education is something which is, I think, which will stay with me forever.
Yeah.
And just for you to create that opportunity for me to speak about something which I love and care, I think I can only say thank you.
No,
Thank you
thanks a
so
lot. The
much.
pleasure is ours.